Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. Hard to believe, episode 27 of Jerks at Work. Today we have the Overthinker. I've worked with Overthinkers, Terry's worked with Overthinkers, and today we're going to get into it and chat a little bit about who they are and how can you handle these folks? How can you spot them? How can you handle them? But first, just take a look at all the upcoming episodes. I have another 7-day ad, which I promised to get on this list for this week, but I'll have them for next week. We have a long list going. And I think the shows have been absolutely great and very informative. I hope you're enjoying it. So let's talk about this Overthinker, Tara. Who are these people?
Yes, I think ultimately this person is very insecure. So they're constantly looking for more information. They cannot make a decision very quickly. You don't want to pin them in a corner because they're never going to make a quick, rash decision. They're not going to do it. They really struggle. They want to be just completely certain. If there's any ambiguity left, they are going to struggle with making that decision. They
Yep.
are looking to work through every possible scenario, which, we can try to plan. It's not about not being a planner, but you won't be able to forecast everything that's going to happen. So this is that person that's trying to do that. They're very insecure. So they want to make sure that every possible outcome, every scenario, they've taken advantage of looking at, examining it to see if they can avoid risk at all costs. But you can't avoid risks at all costs.
No.
They really are looking for just every single detail. They're stuck in that analysis paralysis. I love that.
Yes.
It's where they live. They're just completely in this cycle of thinking. They really are looking for more certainty. And sometimes thinking about it more doesn't give you more certainty. It never will. Sometimes you have to just make a decision. And so they just kind of tell themselves that we need more data. Let's make sure we're not missing anything. Like, all of these are good things to say, but at some point you have to make a decision. You
And I think
cannot continue to wait.
I think that's what's important, These are all good things. Let's get some more data. There's nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
it's very easy when you work with these people in the beginning to mistake what appears to be thoughtfulness, to mistakenly say, oh, they're very thoughtful. Wow, I like this. A very thoughtful person. And it's only that pattern over time. Realize, yeah, this person is definitely an overthinker. They can't make that decision. They just can't do it. And that becomes evident as you work with them, because I like thoughtful people. I've always enjoyed thoughtful people. Let's just think a little bit more about this. They can be great in certain situations, thoughtful people like that. But the overthinkers, they're just trouble. They delay everything. And what is the real issue? And I think this is it. They're probably low esteem. They don't want any more failure, criticism. They can't really handle it. They have low confidence. The high personal standards are just really a foil for them, not wanting to own something that could go wrong. And
Yeah.
so they're forever overthinking everything.
Yeah. That paralysis just comes up again and again and again. It's nothing wrong with thinking deeply about something, but when you're thinking to the point that you're paralyzed and you can't make a decision, that's when it's a problem. And that's when it's causing problems for everyone around you who's waiting for you to make a decision. They're waiting for you to move forward. And this paralysis is impacting more than just you. It's impacting the entire team.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. I've worked with a few of these folks, and in the beginning, they do fake out, but it becomes evident who they are very quickly. So what do you do with these people? You've got to box them in like you do with all these people who delay for various reasons. You got to set very clear decision deadlines. What's good enough? Let's get to this. We don't have to make this perfect, right? Because, the perfectionist, which is different than this, actually, because they've got other reasons for wanting to keep working on things. These people don't want to work on it. They're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Getting something moving, working around them, getting that pilot project going, focus on learning instead of perfection, and, celebrating the people who make decisions. And so I think that's key, is that's what you do with these folks. You've got to do that.
Yeah. You cannot let them stay in that paralyzed state to the point that they are delaying decision making, they're impeding progress on projects.
Hmm.
You know, you're getting late delivery of materials because this person is just delaying. You're paying extra for shipping because they won't make a decision in a timely manner. All of these things, you just cannot afford to let them do that. So you
Yeah.
really do have to hold them accountable. Don't reward that indecision, but force them into making some criteria for decision making. We're going to agree that once we understand these things, we're going to make the decision, and then you have to hold them accountable. You
Yeah.
cannot have this endless analysis loop that just goes on and on and on and on and on, because it's really going to delay your project to a point of no return.
Yeah. Oh, it's very destructive. I've worked with a few of these people, and the delays just drive you absolutely crazy. And there are a lot of hidden costs with all these jerks at work. They create different things. You miss out on real opportunities. You can't move fast, so your agility goes down. Costs go up because things run longer than they should. People just get tired. This decision fatigue wears them out. High performers who really want to move, want to get things done, want that sense of accomplishment are held back. And ultimately, it's going to hurt your company because you're not going to be as competitive as you should be. So these
Yeah.
people create real issues, Tara.
Yeah, more data, more time, more detail, more analysis. I love those books there
Yep.
stacked up.
I
That's
think,
really not always the answer. It really is not always the answer. You want to give a sufficient amount of analysis to the data. You want to take time, go through the details, and be thorough, but not to the point of exhaustion where people are just frustrated and they're ready to move forward, but you're slowing them down. It's just going to cause so much instability on the team because they're waiting to make decisions. They want to move forward, but they can't.
yeah. And these overthinkers don't really have good, insightful reasons why they want more time and more data. When you get somebody who really is thoughtful about it, they'll say, God, I looked at the documents. This section just doesn't make sense to me. We got to spend a little more time on this. This isn't good. Where the overthinker goes, I just don't feel this is right. I think
Yeah.
I think we need to reconsider some of these things. Whereas the real thoughtful person has thoughtfully gone through it and has a real kind of detailed reason for what they're doing. And these folks have general reasons why they
Yeah.
think that they can't move forward. And I think that's a key differentiating factor.
Yeah. I think it's more feelings
Yeah.
of, I just don't feel like it's good enough, or I don't feel like we should move forward, and not something tangible where
Yes.
there's something in the logic that doesn't make sense, or something that we can put our fingers on, and say, oh, this part of the storyline or this particular order doesn't make sense because we need to do these three other things. There's usually something when people are trying to make the process better,
Yeah.
they have something tangible that you can point to and say, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. Versus this person, you're never really going to understand where they're coming from because it's all based on their feelings.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. That's the problem. So we have a really interesting character in next week's episode. We're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. The Do Everything Now. Boy, I worked for one of these leaders. The highest priority on things that had to get done was priority 13. Everything was priority 13. And so this is going to be a fun episode. I think you're going to enjoy it. You should join us here next Wednesday, 3 o'clock for the Do Everything Now, jerk.
Yes.